evening, Cleveland and Columbus sports fans. This is Gen B, and you're tuned in live to the show of the land, right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. So, we've got some Guardians, some Browns, college football, Columbus Blue Jackets, Columbus Crew, and a little bit of Cavs news coming up. The Guardians finished out their season. Terry Francona has officially stepped down as manager. So we've got some updates on that to talk about, as well as the last few games of the season. And then we have the awful outing the Browns had this past Sunday to discuss. Some college football updates. Ohio State didn't play this week, but we'll have a couple other updates for you. And then Columbus Blue Jackets preseason is going strong, so we'll talk about their last couple of preseason games and some roster changes. And then the Crew played a match, and they have a couple of upcoming matches, so we'll talk about that. And then we'll talk about the upcoming Cavs preseason. But first, let's talk about those Guardians. So the Guardians started a series with the Reds last week, and it was a 2-game series at home. They finished the series 1-1. But they did win the season series against the Reds, and they won the Ohio Cup. Game 1 was a loss, 11-7. Lucas Giolito pitched 4 innings and had 5 strikeouts. In the bottom of the second inning, Bo Naylor hit a 3-run home run. Then in the third inning, Cole Calhoun, I don't know why I never want to say his name right. Cole Calhoun had a 2-run home run. And then Andres Jimenez had a solo home run. In the fourth inning, Josh Naylor had an RBI single. And that was the end of their scoring. So they had 7 runs at that point, and they were winning 7-5. But they gave up the lead and ended up losing 11-7. But in the 7th inning, Andres Jimenez hit a foul ball right into his knee. It was ugly to watch, and he was hopping all over the place. He, for a minute or so, could not put weight on his leg. The trainers came out. Francona came out, and they talked to him, and he ended up finishing up the at-bat. I believe he struck out, but which was good, because I didn't want to see him run, because he was obviously in pain, and he was pulled for Tyler Friedman after that happened. Then they went on to a game 2, and they won 4-3. Shane Bieber pitched 6 innings, had 7 strikeouts. They did a little thank you Tito ceremony for Terry Francona. It was his last home game as manager of the Guardians. In the bottom of the second, Freeman had an RBI single, and Rocchio also had an RBI single, and they were leading 2-0. Bottom of the third, Josh Naylor had an RBI single, and they were up 3-0. Bottom of the fourth, Jose Tena had an RBI single, and they were up 4-0. And that's all they scored. And then towards the end of the game, the Reds got a couple of runs in, but they held the lead, and I believe Clase got another save on that one as well. And then they headed to Detroit for a 3-game series to finish out the season. They went 1-2 in that series, and it was Miguel, and now I'm drawing a blank on his last name, Cabrera, I believe. Last series as a Tiger. He is retiring, so there was a lot of fanfare going on, and I believe all 3 games were completely sold out. So it was very crazy in Detroit. But game 1, they won 7-5. Cal Quantrill was the pitcher. In the top of the second, Rocchio had an RBI double, and then Bo Naylor had a 2-run home run, and they were leading 3-0. In the top of the third, Tyler Freeman had a 3-run home run, and then later in the inning, Bo Naylor scored on an error, bringing the score to 7-2. Clase came in for the save and got his 44th save of the season, which is a career high for him, and number 1 in the American League. Game 2, they lost 8-0. Tristan McKenzie pitched. There's nothing to talk about. Nothing happened. They didn't score. With that win, Detroit clinched second in the AL Central, so the Guardians officially finished third in the American League Central. Game 3, they lost 5-2. Lucas Giolito pitched again. He went 5 innings. In the top of the fourth, Rocchio had an RBI groundout, and Tyler Freeman had a solo home run in the 5th. And those were the only 2 runs they scored. So they finished out on a loss, which was a bummer, but, what can you do? So these numbers are from during that last game, so I'm not sure if these are the final numbers, but as of the last game, Jose Ramirez and Steven Kwan were tied for 6th in the AL in hits. Josh Naylor was tied for 7th in RBIs. Andres Jimenez was tied for 7th in steals. And Jose Ramirez was tied for 7th in batting average. They finished with an elite defense, with 3 players being number 1 at their position in the AL. Andres Jimenez had 23 runs saved. Miles Straw had a perfect fielding percentage, which I am shocked at because I saw some of his fielding and it wasn't perfect. But, apparently they didn't count his errors, so he's saved. Saved by the umpires. And Steven Kwan had 344 putouts. And as I said earlier, Emmanuel Clase finished number 1 in the league with 44 saves. Chris Antonelli spoke today with Terry Francona in a press conference and officially announced that Terry Francona is stepping down as manager. He will remain with the organization. His position is to be determined. He is in the process of making doctor's appointments and scheduling some surgeries that he has been putting off on I believe it's his knees and hip, possibly, that he has been putting off because he didn't want to be away from the team for extended periods of time while he recovered from surgeries. Sandy Alomar Jr. has declined to apply for the manager position, but the team does hope to keep him on as a coach. He is currently the first base coach, so we'll see what happens there. So we will see what happens at the manager position. There has been no word on who the replacement may be, so we'll see what happens there. We'll see what happens with some of the free agents and things like that over the next few months. But over the next couple of weeks, next couple of shows, probably won't be talking much about the Guardians because, it's the off season and they're all going on vacation and all that fun stuff before they start their off-season training. So if there are any updates, I will be sure to share them, but I don't expect any, at least not in the next few weeks. But we'll see. You never know. In the chat, Taryn Rodriguez says, that's a feather in the Guardians' cap winning the Ohio Cup. Baby steps to being the best. Yes, it is. I mean, the Reds were a pretty good team. So I am proud of the Guardians for that feather. This season was a slight disappointment after getting to the wild card round of the playoffs last season, but they had a lot of injuries, a lot of pitching injuries. Tristan McKenzie, though he's back, is still not pitching like he was before the injury. So, and then they had Shane Bieber out for a while. Cal Quantrill was out for a while. So and then they had 4 rookie pitchers in their starting rotation at any given point in the season. So, finishing in 3rd place in the Central is not terrible. It was not where we expected them to be after the way last season ended, but Josh Naylor was hurt for a little while, so they had some batting woes. Josh Bell did not bring the bat power that they anticipated he would bring, so some things just didn't fall their way. So, there's always next season, as we always say in Cleveland. So we will wait and see what the upcoming changes have in store for our Cleveland Guardians and what things are looking like for next season in the coming months. But that wraps things up on the Guardians. I'm going to take a short break, then I'll be back to talk about the Browns. I don't want to, but I'll be back to talk about the Browns anyway. On the Show of the Land with Jen B on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
IE Sports Radio fans, it's your boy, the SoCal Saint, the host of the premier professional wrestling podcast online today, the IE Elite Wrestling Show. If you're a fan and have a passion for the world of professional wrestling, this is the show for you. I take you inside the ropes with all the athleticism, high-flying, and hard-hitting action, and then we take it backstage with all the backstage drama and backstabbing that goes on in the world of professional wrestling today. If something's going on in the world of professional wrestling, rest assured, the SoCal Saint knows what's going on, and he's going to let you know too. If you're a fan, check us out every Tuesday, 12 p.m. Central Standard Time, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, only on IE Sports Radio. The IE Elite Wrestling Show, your direct feed for all that is professional wrestling, on the only network that is your direct feed for all that is sports. Check us out.
Hello, sports fans. It's me, your boy Larry B, and I want to walk you through the world of sports. No, not just the mainstream major TV deal type sports, although those are important too. But let me be your guide through your journey of all sports, from college to the pros, the minors, and everything in between. Each week, we are talking sports galore with true diehards just like you from a hardcore fan's perspective that's sure to quench your thirst around leagues you may know all too well and some you may even discover here. That's right, sports fans. If you love sports of all kinds, enjoy hearing amazing sports stories, and respect all sports because you know how difficult any of them can be to play or compete in, then this is your show. Join me, your boy Larry B, on the defining moment each week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports, and let the sports come to you.
Hello, ladies and sinners. Hello, sports fans around the world. Hello, IE Sports family. This is Cale Henderson, the host of IE Vegas, the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio. If you folks are interested in sports in the Vegas area, if you're wanting to have a blast for 1 hour, every Tuesday night from 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time to 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, this is a show built for the Vegas sports fans, where we feature the Las Vegas Raiders, the Las Vegas Golden Knights, the Las Vegas Aces, and the University of Las Vegas, Nevada Rebels. Hopefully, fingers crossed, MLB team coming soon. Either way, if you folks are looking to have a blast for 1 hour each and every week, tune in Tuesday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time to 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. If you folks are interested in Vegas sports news, go to our Twitter, at SinCities_IESR, and you can speak with me, the host, Cale Henderson, at Cale_Henderson on Twitter. At any time, be happy to reply. Always want to reach out to our fans. Again, the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
You're back live with Jen B on the Show of the Land right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Before we get into the Browns, Adam Karnick jumped in the chat. He is the host of Chi-Town Weekly and said Tito was an outstanding manager. That he was. Chris Antonelli had nothing but glowing things to say about Tito today when in the press conference announcing that he was officially stepping down. He was the manager for 11 seasons, so he has changed the outlook of the franchise and brought a winning culture in. They were struggling before he came in and got things back in order. But on to the sad Browns. Sad. In the chat, Taryn Rodriguez, who is the host of our Southern California show, and also Set Point, our volleyball show, and he is also co-host of 3 and Out College Edition with Larry B. So be sure to check him out as well. And Adam in the chat also says, fun fact, Tito was Michael Jordan's manager when MJ was with the White Sox farm system. I had heard that, but that is very interesting. He has been around a lot of guys. He grew up in baseball. His father played as well. So he has been around for a long time. And from the sounds of it, he's not going anywhere. He's just taking a little personal health break. So we'll see what his role ends up being once he has taken care of himself. But on to our sad Browns. Before we get into the sad part, there have been a couple of rumors over the last week or so that the Browns were allegedly in discussions with the Broncos to trade for Jerry Jeudy. And there was also some rumors going around that Davante Adams wants out of Vegas and is interested in the Browns. I don't see either of those happening, but you never know. I mean, Andrew Berry has done crazier things, so you never know. But I think our receiving core is pretty solid, but they're not the problem. The problem lies elsewhere. So early last week, it came out that Deshaun Watson was limited in practice all week with a shoulder injury that was apparently sustained during the Titans game in a quarterback draw to the end zone. Adam in the chat says, "Ooh, get Davante Adams before the Bears have to face him, please." I don't think the Browns have enough money for Davante Adams. They'd have to get rid of some people or restructure a whole lot of more contracts. But anyway, Deshaun Watson had what they said was a contusion on his throwing shoulder. He was hit pretty hard on a quarterback draw near the goal line towards the end of the Titans game, and supposedly that's when the injury occurred. He did, to my recollection, did not leave the game or anything, but it was bothering him last week. He did have an MRI, and they confirmed there was no structural damage, but there is fluid around the rotator cuff, and he was expected to play up until about an hour and a half to 2 hours before game time. He went out to do some practice throwing, and he did not feel comfortable going forward and playing. He was, based on what Stefanski said, medically cleared to play, but he did not feel that he had enough throwing motion in his shoulder to be productive, so he chose to not go, which I was okay with, honestly. When I heard that he had an injury that was not too serious, but it was to his throwing shoulder, knowing that they have a bye week this coming week, I was like, just let him sit and give him 2 weeks to recover. We don't need another 2021 Baker Mayfield season where our quarterback is playing with an injured shoulder the entire season. And this is his throwing shoulder. Baker's wasn't. So not a good way to go. So I was kind of glad that they ruled him out. I had a little more faith in DTR than I guess I should have, however. But we'll get to that in a little bit. Nick Chubb had a successful surgery on the 29th. They repaired his medial capsule, his meniscus, and his MCL. And they did determine that he will need a second surgery to repair his ACL. He is expected to return at, and this is in quotes, some point in 2024. So not sure exactly what that means, or when in 2024, but sometime in 2024. So it's a little bit worse than they had said prior to the surgery, but it's still better than before the final diagnosis came out. So we'll see what happens with him, and hopefully he will have a smooth recovery with no setbacks, and he can get back to being the Nick Chubb that we all know and love. Some more weird news for the Browns. On Friday night, it came out that, or actually I think it was Saturday morning that it was announced that David Njoku was added to the injury list as questionable due to burns suffered in a household accident. It was later revealed that he was lighting a fire pit in his backyard and somehow burned his face, arm, and hand. So, up until right before game time, he was questionable. He said he was going to go, nothing was going to stop him, but the Browns were more concerned with whether or not he would be able to wear comfortably a helmet for 60 minutes. But he did end up going, and he actually had a pretty decent game, so props to him. A couple of stats before we get into the awful game. Denzel Ward had a 9-game streak with a pass breakup going into the game against the Ravens, and MJ Emerson was averaging 1 reception allowed for every 29 snaps, which is number 1 in the league for cornerbacks. At halftime of the game, Joe Thomas received his Hall of Fame ring and was inducted into the Browns Ring of Honor officially. He was already partially in it for his snap streak, but now he is completely in the Ring of Honor. Unfortunately, since I watched it on TV, I did not get to see the ceremony, so I had to watch the the broadcast halftime show with all the score updates and things of that nature instead of seeing the induction, but it is what it is. But it looks like a good time was had by all, and he was the first ever to smash the guitar pre-game wearing the Hall of Fame gold jacket. So, congratulations to Joe Thomas. So then, let's get into the nitty-gritty of the game. So, the Browns faced the Ravens at home. Did not start great. Well, I mean, actually, it did start great. They held the Ravens to 3-0 on the first drive. So, woohoo! Looked like it was starting great. Then, on the Ravens' second drive, Zadarius Smith got hurt during a sack. He did end up returning to the game, so it does not appear that the injury was all that significant. I have not seen any updates. They are on a bye week, so there's no injury report coming out this week. So I haven't seen any updates in regards to him, so I assume it is not a serious injury. On the Browns' second drive, DTR threw an interception. Shortly after that, the Ravens scored their first touchdown, and it was the first score inside the red zone on the Browns defense of the season, making the score 7-0. Then Dustin Hopkins, on his birthday nonetheless, kicked a 53-yard field goal to bring the score to 7-3. Then Ethan Posick was shown walking to the locker room. It was later announced that he had a chest injury and was questionable to return. That was in the second quarter. He ended up returning in the second half and then went down with a knee injury and left again. So Nick Harris ended up playing center the majority of the game. His knee injury is said not to be serious, and he is day-to-day, so that's good news, at least. At least it was not a serious injury. The Browns did recover a fumble at their own 39, but failed to score. The defense gave up another touchdown. It was 14-3. Then Walker went out with an arm injury. He did end up returning. And at halftime, it was 21-3 Ravens. And Alex Wright was out with a chest injury and was questionable to return. I am not sure if he returned. I actually ended up turning the game off. Not because they were getting their butts kicked, but because the Guardians were on and the Browns were getting their butts kicked, so I decided to watch the Guardians instead. Myles Garrett got hurt. And it looked like an ankle injury when it happened, but now they're saying it was a foot injury. He did walk off on his own, under his own power, and did return to the game, but he left the stadium in a walking boot. But they're saying he is also day-to-day, so hopefully both he and Posick will be back after the bye week. Jerome Ford was limping. I have not seen any updates on what's going on with him. Taki was ruled out during the game with cramps, so hopefully that's, just game day issue and not something serious, more serious. And DTR finished the game with 3 interceptions and a whopping 121 yards. So not the greatest outing for our 5th round rookie quarterback. But, So going into the game knowing that Watson was not going to be playing, I was still somewhat hopeful knowing the number of injuries the Ravens are dealing with and how well our defense has been playing. Because I figured all DTR needs to do is not turn the ball over. Well, that didn't happen. So, here we are. 2-2 after the first 4 games. So, And our first game after the bye week is San Francisco. So, I don't know. I don't know what to think about these Browns right now. We shall see how things progress, and hopefully Watson will be back after the bye week, and hopefully we don't have to go through another 2 or 3 weeks of him getting reacclimated. Hopefully he'll start back up where he left off in the Titans game. But I don't know. I mean, the defense didn't play horribly against Baltimore. I mean, it's the Ravens. They always manage to do something. So, I mean, I wasn't surprised that they were able to score. I didn't expect them to score 4 times. But, I guess when you throw 3 interceptions. But the defense was on the field way too long, and even some of the guys that spoke in the media day on Monday said the same thing. They said, they did the best they could, but they were tired. We left them out there too long because the offense just could not do anything. The field goal they made, I believe they got after a 39-yard or something like that pass interference penalty that Amari Cooper drew. So that's the only time they were even within scoring range. I think they got somewhat within field goal range one other time, but they ended up getting a penalty and then a sack or something that pushed them out of field goal range, and they ended up having to punt. So it was not good. It was just not good. So we'll see. I mean, I hope that none of these injuries are serious, like they are saying they are not, and that all of these guys will be back and good to go in week 6. But that is yet to be determined. Adam says, tough when you have to start your backup quarterback and backup center. Yeah, that was a little surprising. I was not happy when I saw Ethan Posick walking to the locker room. I was like, oh no, we have a rookie quarterback and a backup center who hasn't played in a year because he was out with some kind of injury. I don't remember what his injury was. I think it might have been a torn ACL all of last season. So that was not positive. And, the offensive line has been struggling with blocking this year. I think it's partly to do with not having Nick Chubb in the backfield. Yeah, you block a little differently for Nick Chubb than you do for just about anybody else. Plus, they're not used to having a mobile quarterback like Deshaun Watson. They have, been blocking for Baker Mayfield. So it's a little different, and Deshaun Watson likes to hold on to the ball and make things happen, and there's a little bit of a learning curve there for the offensive line. So it is what it is. You have good weeks, you have bad weeks. So we've had 2 bad weeks, 1 weird week with the crazy sideways, whatever, crazy rain, and then 1 pretty good week, really good week. I mean, Deshaun Watson had an amazing game that week against the Titans. So there is hope. It's not all bad, but we have 2 weeks to think about it. And hopefully they'll make some adjustments and they'll come back stronger in week 6. I'm not going to have much to talk about next week. There's no Guardians and there's no Browns. I guess I'm going to have to find some extra to talk about on the other teams. But that wraps things up for the Browns. I'm going to take another short break, and then I will be back to talk college football, Columbus Blue Jackets, Columbus Crew, and a little bit about the Cavs. on the Show of the Land with Jen B on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Are you a fan of Buffalo sports? Are you thinking of changing loyalties and becoming a Buffalo sports fan? Do you even know where Buffalo is on the map? Did you know Canada is closer to Buffalo than New York City? Welcome to the Buffalo Huddle, every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and 4 p.m. Pacific Coast Time on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I'm your host, Patty Bax. This is a podcast designed for you, the passionate sports fan. I know you love your sports. Who doesn't? I cover Buffalo sports and so much more by bringing in the human elements. I call it Buffalo Sports with a Twist. Join me as we take a journey into the world of Buffalo sports. I guarantee you'll fall in love with Buffalo just like I did. Each week we start with an inspiration, question of the day, a Buffalo fun fact, and our weekly challenge to you, the listener. Come huddle up with me every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and 4 p.m. Pacific Coast Time for the Buffalo Huddle with Patty Bax on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. As we say in Buffalo, go Bills!
What's up, everybody? This is Taryn Rodriguez. Are you a fan of volleyball? Are you a fan of Thunder Spikes? Then I have the show for you, Set Point, where I cover NCAA men's and women's volleyball, high school boys and girls volleyball, beach volleyball, and even professional volleyball. Catch the action every week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
It's IE Sports Radio. It is your direct feed for all that is sports. It is Philly Sports Talk with Cash and Chris every Tuesday night right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Philly Sports Talk with Cash and Chris is the most comprehensive view on Philadelphia sports exclusively right here on IE Sports Radio. You know what it is, your direct feed for all that is sports. Tuesday night, IE Sports Radio, Philly Sports Talk with Cash and Chris.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Davidson.
It's your boy Dentarius Lava.
And we are the hosts of Fast Break here on IE Sports Radio, where we discuss everything in the world of basketball from prep to the pros.
You guys should definitely check us out, man. Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. We got all the basketball information you guys need, so we look forward to you guys listening in.
And please do, because we are the best basketball show on this side of the Mississippi. And please do check us out on Twitter at FastBreakISR. D-Lock, where's our time again?
8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. That gives you guys plenty of time on a Sunday.
Tune in.
You're back live with Jen Mead on the Show of the Land right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. In the chat, Adam says, hour-long Blue Jackets season preview next week. Well, I'll have to do a crash course in Blue Jackets and hockey, and then I can put that together. And it's Drewski has jumped in the chat as well. So first, let's talk some college football. Like I said earlier, Ohio State did not play this week, so there's nothing there, but they do play Maryland on Saturday. Akron played Buffalo, and they lost 13-10 in overtime. Next week, they will be playing Northern Illinois. Ashland was at Ohio Dominican and won 20-6, and they will be playing Walsh next week. Mount Union played Ohio Northern and won 35-0, and they will be playing Heidelberg next week. Heidelberg played Muskingum and won 20-17, and they are now preparing to get their asses kicked by Mount Union. Youngstown State was at Iowa Northern, and they lost 44-41. Next week, they will be playing Southern Illinois. Kent State played Miami of Ohio and lost 23-3. Yikes. Next week, they will be at Ohio University. So, unfortunately, I was not able to watch any of those games because I was busy trying to figure out how to watch the Blue Jackets preseason game because the link was not working that they posted on Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it. But I did eventually figure it out, and I did watch some of it. And then also the Guardians were playing, so I was not able to get any of those football games because most of those are websites that you have to watch them on. They are not on TV, so couldn't have two websites up on my TV. I had a hard enough time getting one up. But the Columbus Blue Jackets played the St. Louis Blues and lost 3-2. Both goals were scored by Emil Bemstrom. And then they played Buffalo and lost 4-3. 2 goals were scored by Patrick Lane and 1 by Justin Danforth. And then just last night, they played the St. Louis Blues again and won 5-3. Goals were scored by 5 different players: Boone Jenner, Kirill Marchenko, Cole Sillinger, Justin Danforth, and Johnny Gaudreau. Jet Greaves was the goaltender, and he recorded 37 saves. They are currently 2-1 in preseason so far, and they have 3 games left. One on 10-4 tomorrow, against the Buffalo Sabres again. And then they will play again on Thursday, 10-5, against the Washington Capitals. And then on 10-7, they will again play the Washington Capitals. They had some roster moves over the last few days. They claimed goalie Spencer Martin off of waivers from Vancouver. And then they had a few players that they had from the Cleveland Monsters in the American Hockey League that they sent back. Tyler Angle, Old Julian Jorvik Holm, I think. Cameron Butler, Luca Del Bel Blues, Samuel Nazco, Mikhail Paitia, and then they also returned the following, those players were loaned to the Cleveland Monsters. These players were returned to the Cleveland Monsters. Roman Akan, Cole Clayton, Jake Godot, Owen Sillinger, Eric Dopp was released from PTO, and Martin Rysavy is also expected to join the Cleveland Monsters. And then Nicholas Moloki and Thomas Schmitz was released they were both released from their tryout contracts. So they are now down to 48 players. That includes 26 forwards, 16 defensemen, and 6 goaltenders. And I'm not sure if that 6 includes Spencer Martin or if this list was posted before they claimed Spencer Martin. So it might be 7 goaltenders. I'm not positive on that. But there are 9 days left to the season opener, and they will open the season on 10/12 next Thursday against the Philadelphia Flyers at home. The Crew played Philadelphia, and it was a 1-1 draw. Cucho Hernandez scored the only goal in that game. Their next matches are tomorrow 10-4 against New England, and then 10-7 against Atlanta United. Then we have Cavs training camp is starting up right now. Preseason starts next Tuesday against the Atlanta Hawks. And Donovan Mitchell has said he will not extend his contract by the October deadline. If he stays in Cleveland, he will re-sign over the summer. So we'll see what happens with that. We're going to make the best of this season with Donovan Mitchell, hopefully. Hopefully there's not going to be any crazy trades. But you never know. Stranger things have happened. There are always crazy trades in the NBA. So we've got a lot coming up in college football, and with the Blue Jackets and the Crew having some games going on in the next few days, and then next week Cavs start. So next week we will talk not about the Guardians or the Browns, probably. Maybe a little bit about the Browns. There might be some injury updates or something, but they won't be playing, so there won't be a game to talk about. Oh, excuse me. And we'll talk some college football, and we will definitely talk about the Blue Jackets and their upcoming season opener and how their last couple of preseason games went. And we will talk about the Crew and what's coming up for them. I believe after this week they have one more match before the playoffs start, but that match is not until October 21st, so they have a couple of weeks off. perhaps that October 21st match is the first game of the playoffs. I'm not positive on that. It did not say postseason on the schedule, so I don't know. I don't think so, but we'll see. I will get more information on that for next week. But that about wraps things up, because there is not really a whole lot more to talk about since Ohio State didn't play. The Browns play like crap. And the Guardians are done. Cavs haven't really started yet. So, that's about all for tonight. But I will have more for you next week. So, that's all for tonight. Thank you for joining me, Jen B, tonight on the Show of the Land. Be sure to follow me on X, Instagram, and Threads at BelieveLandGirl. On TikTok at JENN.BelieveLand. And follow the show on X at Show of the Land IE. Next up is the Buffalo Huddle with Patty Bax. Sure to catch me next Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern on the Show of the Land for more on Cleveland and Columbus sports on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all of the sports. Have a great night, Ohio.
Bye.